I'm Renee Charles with the Hearland Partnership alongside Roberta Parks, who is the Chief Operating Officer of the Peoria Area Chamber of Commerce. And what we wanted to talk about today is this capital program for the state of Illinois. It's been 10 years, is that right, since we've actually had a capital program. Give me an overview of why do we need a capital program? What's the benefit of it to residents of Illinois?
Well, that's really easy to explain because we were a big beneficiary of the last capital program we have, and that's all the rebuild that took place on I-74 a couple of years ago. That was a result of the last big capital program that we had in the state of Illinois. So it's easy for all of us here in Peoria to see the tangible benefits that have come from that. It's been a long time in road building and highway and transportation related terms since we've had a capital program, and all that money that came to us, it's all been spent, and so we need to, about every 8-10 years, the state needs to reinvest in the infrastructure. Sometimes the capital program includes just transportation, roads, bridges, trains, planes, transit. Sometimes it includes other things, what we call vertical assets, so buildings. This year's capital program actually includes some funding for education and some vertical projects for the state of Illinois, as well as transportation funding.
So this one would be a little more broad than what we've seen in the past.
Right. Sometimes they've had separate building programs for schools. This time they've combined it into one. We've worked most closely on the transportation-related portions of it.
And why is that?
Well, transportation is, chambers around the country are interested in transportation issues. Commerce moves by transportation. It is important that our communities have and our state have the infrastructure necessary to support commerce, and roads and planes and trains and barges and transit are all part of that.
And it's getting people in and out, getting
and goods in and out.
In and out.
Right.
The easier it is to move,
Absolutely.
the easier it is to locate somewhere because you have that ability to ship your product.
Right. And a good road system in a community can mean really has strong economic development benefits. Again, look at the 74 rebuild. That was a very deteriorated piece of interstate, and it was critical that we get it rebuilt so it continued to support our communities and help people move through, into and through our communities. That's really important. So we worked not just here locally, but we're part of an organization called Transportation for Illinois Coalition that's a very bipartisan, labor management, all kinds of organizations are involved, and I happen to have the opportunity to be a board member where I represent our organizations, trying to assess the need in the state, trying to identify funding sources because you got to pay for capital programs somehow. It's usually through bonds, and where does that money come from to repay the bonds? So I think we have come up with a program. It's not as big as we would have liked, but it is a good step forward. And what we need now is for the governor to sign it.
How important, or I guess how in need are we for some of these transportation projects and this bill? I mean, how desperate are we to have this?
Well, again, let me kind of give some examples. It is in downstate Illinois, which is everything except Chicago and a couple of the collar counties. Historically, even in this program, we get the majority of the road funds because we have way more miles of roads than they have in the Chicago. Now, they have much more density and all those kinds of things there. So sometimes part of the capital program goes to maintain what already exists.
Okay.
We've had in this country, we've had a lot of issues about bridges and the safety of bridges. So part of this capital program will go towards some of those bridges in the state of Illinois and certainly in our region to make sure they are safe for continuing cars and trucks to go over, and that's important.
And existing work.
It adds to the regular work that's done by IDOT every year. They have a plan, a 5-year plan that talks about that, all the things they're going to be doing, and this allows them to add some new projects on, increase the amount of maintenance when it's appropriate, to make sure we have good funding for transit. Chicago gets more transit money than downstate does, but we will get money for our transit system also.
Do we see any local projects that are named specifically in this program?
We have two that are named in the capital bill this time, and one of them is Technology Boulevard over in East Peoria, which is, as you come through the old Caterpillar plant, is a big part of the East Peoria 2010 projects over there. And then Veterans Drive over in Pekin. Pekin's been really aggressive and passed a local gas tax several years ago to make sure they had the funding in place. And so we were pleased. Both of those are on our regional road priority list, so we have two named projects in this capital bill.
It's not passed yet.
Well, it's passed. It's passed the House and Senate.
It's passed the governor's desk.
But the governor hasn't signed it. As you know, as of today, we don't have a operating budget for the state of Illinois. They were back in session. They got called into special session. They still haven't made it. And the governor is actually the The House has held their bills and not sent them to the governor because the governor said he doesn't want to sign them until he has a regular operating budget. So this is a lever and a wedge that the House and the governor are playing against each other.
So he's kind of holding the capital program
hostage
until we get this operating budget signed.
Right. We've sent a letter to the governor on behalf of the board of directors and the chamber members saying it's important. This is an important bill in and of itself. We certainly agree we need to have a solid operating budget and have a fiscally sound state, which is a challenge right now. But we need to separate these issues. We'd like you to go ahead and sign it. And so a lot of organizations around the state have sent that. The governor hasn't done that yet, but we'll continue to monitor this and watch it. And the governor is supportive of a capital program. He was part of the negotiations of what was in, what was out, the funding sources, all those kinds of things. So we believe the governor will sign it. He's just using it as a wedge right now.
Okay.
A little frustrating.
Well, we'll keep our eyes on it and see what happens with it. Obviously, it would be a great benefit to us here in Central Illinois, but to the entire state as well.
And the fact that we've got the stimulus money coming in, much of it for transportation. You're driving around right now, you see those big signs that talk about this, as the federal stimulus money. This lets us marry those together. It also puts us in a good position because at the federal level, we have to reauthorize the federal highway bill, and it's really up for reauthorization in the next coming months. It's important that we have funding in the state because usually money that comes from the feds has to have a matching amount locally.
So
that's another reason.
Yes,
that's another reason why it's important for us to have a capital program in the state of Illinois.
All right. Well, let's hope the governor gets this signed right away.
Absolutely. We want to see Governor Quinn sign on the bottom line.
All right. Thanks so much for explaining everything to us and kind of giving us more insight into it.
Great. Thank you.